Hi everybody, welcome to Relished. I'm Alli. I am a nutritionist, a yoga teacher, and here to talk nutrition to you every week. So, I'm excited about today's episode because the theme is the Buddhist diet and intermittent fasting. So they kind of go hand in hand, but we'll go into more detail. And then we're also going to be making a recipe called sweet potato and chickpea Bootables with ginger tahini sauce. And that is from Cooking Classy, which is a blog that you can see featured on relish.com. The recipe looks delicious, and it looks like lots of things that we already have at our house. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And I have some of the sweet potatoes are cooking right now, so we will be hearing the timer go off fairly soon. I got to give them a stir. I'll tell you about it. So we're going to talk Buddhist diet, we're going to talk intermittent fasting, and then we're going to make a recipe. Please feel free to put any comments or questions down in the chat down below. I love questions and comments, so please, I love to have a conversation with everybody that's listening. And so it looks like we have somebody in there. Hello. All right. So maybe you see sometimes, like if you go to a vegetarian restaurant or something, they'll have the Bootable or Buddha plate or something like that. And so basically what that is, well, let's just talk about Buddhism really quickly. So Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, was... he started Buddhism in the 15th century BC in India, Eastern India / what we call Nepal now, so over in that area. And there are lots of different versions of Buddhism all around the world. And each type, of course, interprets everything differently, especially the dietary practices. So there are lots of different ways that people consider eating Buddhist or eating kind of like the Buddha diet. Almost everybody that follows this diet is vegetarian because of the concepts in Buddhism to not harm another being. So many Buddhists are vegetarian, lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which means they eat dairy products and eggs because the animals weren't harmed in producing the milk and eggs and cheese and all that stuff. But some eat strict vegan. They don't want any involvement with an animal. So, and then there is a category of some that do eat meat that wasn't slaughtered for somebody to consume. So, different circumstances. So, mostly vegetarian. Almost everywhere you go and you see a Bootable, it's going to be a vegetarian. And sometimes they have eggs on them, sometimes it's vegan. So, today's dish that we're making is vegan, although I'll probably put an egg on top of it when we eat it later tonight. So anyway, that's kind of the behind the scenes of the vegetarian aspect of the Buddhist diet. Some Buddhists don't eat alcohol. Oop, those are the sweet potatoes. Let's take a look. So I'll just tell you now that the chopped sweet potatoes and garbanzo beans. And then you're supposed to put, cinnamon, cumin, paprika. But I have a spice blend that has all of those in it. It is so good. It is a Moroccan rub spice blend. I think it's in a lot of local shops here in Seattle. But it is so good. You can smell the cinnamon, the paprika. So you'll see when you look at the recipe that that's what it is. So I put that on the sweet potatoes, plus some olive oil, some salt. Okay, so here we go. These have been cooking for about 20 minutes. I'm going to give them a stir halfway through. I'm going to put a little bit more oil on them too. So, yum. Okay, sweet potatoes. We don't have them that much in our house, but when we do, I love it. So I'm putting a little bit more olive oil, a little bit more salt. Heck, let's put a little bit more of this is called a kefta rub. Okay. Season them a little bit more. All right, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. All right, so give this a little stir. Got my little spatula right here. Okay, Give them a little stir. Whoops. All right. And then looks like they're getting nice and cooked, but I'm going to put them in for about 10 more minutes. And that should be good. The recipe says 30 minutes, but it looked, I think I had a little bit more sweet potatoes than they called for. So I'm going to cook them a little bit longer. So maybe we'll do 15. Let's do 12. Split the difference. Okay. So there we go. Back to Buddhism. So some Buddhists don't drink alcohol for the thought that like you would veer off course or, you know, you might cloud your judgment or whatever. But some do. So it kind of just depends. And some Buddhists also, I read, don't eat strong smelling plants like garlic, onions, chives, leeks, things like that. So there, you know, it's just a variety of different interpretations. But the take-home message, mostly vegetarian. And, you know, that brings me into the whole idea that it's great. You know, it's a great way of living, a great way of eating because it's plant-based. You're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber and phytochemicals and antioxidants. So, you know, you can't go wrong. The only thing you have to consider is getting enough protein, getting enough B12, getting enough iron, getting enough omega-3s. But if you're eating beans, if you're having flax seeds, if you're having chia seeds, you're going to get a lot of that. And nutritional yeast. Remember last week we talked about nutritional yeast. You get your B12 from that. So if you're going to follow something similar to this lifestyle, get your protein, get your B12. So one other big component about Buddhists is that traditionally they fast. And in the traditional sense, like the traditional Buddhist monks, they will fast from noon until dawn the next day. So that's a pretty long time. And, you know, the concept is that Buddha didn't want his followers to be focusing about food, and then they can really have a clear mind and sustain themselves in that short amount of time so they're not eating from noon to dawn. So when they wake up until noon is when they nourish themselves, and then the rest of the day is focused on other things. Oh, great. Thank you for adding the link. This is the link for the recipe. It is really good. So it's from Classy Cooking, or Cooking Classy. Okay, I'm going to put that there because we're going to be making a dressing later. Anyway, so that's kind of the concept of fasting. And when you're fasting for that long of a period of time, brings me into this whole other idea of intermittent fasting. So people that follow the Buddhist diet or Buddhist monks basically are doing intermittent fasting. But people that do intermittent fasting are not necessarily Buddhist. Just so we're clear on that it's just an idea of fasting. And that just brought me to the concept like, okay, let's talk about intermittent fasting because that's a really popular topic these days. And it's become really popular largely because there was a book called The Obesity Code by Jason Fung. He wrote it 4 years ago, I think. Yeah, 4 years ago. And basically, there are two different ways that people do intermittent fasting. The most popular is to fast for 16 hours a day. So basically, you're eating for 8 hours a day. So some people will eat from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then stop eating and then not eat again until 1 p.m. the next day. So you have this big chunk of time, this 16-hour time frame where you're not eating. And we'll talk about why people do this. And then some other people choose to do a 24-hour fast like once or twice a week. And that is, let's say you stop eating at noon, you don't eat again until noon the next day. A little bit harder to do, but so that's why some people choose the 16-hour fast. And basically what this doctor is saying, Dr. Fung is saying is eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, lots of fiber, healthy proteins, fats, avoid sugar, processed foods, all that. And then he says, please stop snacking, which that's kind of hard for me because I love snacking. But the whole idea of like giving your body a break. So when we're not eating between meals, if you're not snacking, between meals is when your body has time to digest. your insulin levels go down. It's just kind of that downtime for your body to do good things. And that's why people do longer fasts besides between meals. So anyway, there was a study done. You know how I always bring up a study. And there was a study done where there were two groups of men that were obese men with prediabetes. And half the group, they gave them food for 12 hours a day. So they fasted for 12 hours a day. And the other group did the 16-hour version where they would eat 8 hours a day and then fast 16 hours a day. And after, and both groups, both groups maintained their weight. But after 5 weeks, the group that fasted for 16 hours, their insulin levels were significantly lower. And also they had improved insulin sensitivity. So that was pretty interesting. So this whole concept of the intermittent fasting, it's basically an overview is you're just cycling through when you eat and when you don't eat. So it's not a diet because you can eat, however you want when you're eating, but it's the concept of cycling through when you eat and when you don't eat. And most people do it for weight loss. That's kind of, if you Google it, like that's the big main reason why people do intermittent fasting. But there are also a lot of different other reasons and benefits to it. So, some of the benefits and some of the reasons people do it also. Well, what's happening when you're fasting? Like we were just talking about, your insulin levels go down, your blood sugar is controlled, but also the human growth hormone levels increase dramatically. And it's a time while you're fasting. It's a time for your cells to repair themselves, which is good. And also, yes, like we talked about the insulin sensitivity. And so they have found that also, in addition to that, it can decrease inflammation in your body, which is, we've talked about this other weeks, which we know is a good thing because that can help with our risk of, heart disease. It can help with other chronic diseases like cancer and things like that. So a decreased inflammation is good. They've also found that it could possibly help lower our LDL cholesterol, which is our bad cholesterol. That's a good thing. And there's been a little bit of research that shows that it may help growth of new nerve cells in your brain and just basic brain health, and it could help possibly protect against Alzheimer's. So that's kind of interesting. And I thought this was so funny. One other benefit that I read about, they were saying you don't have to spend as much time cooking and cleaning your kitchen and planning out your diets because you're eating less. So that's something, I don't know. I like cooking. I don't mind the cleaning up part. But for some people that have a really busy life, that is one bonus. That's basically one less meal a day that you're making and planning for. So that's something. And of course, weight loss, because you are, if you're eating kind of normally during the 8 hours, you're probably eating less. I mean, some people might eat a lot more just because they know they're going to be fasting, but if you maintain your normal eating, but take out a couple of those hours, you're going to be reducing your calorie intake. So that is interesting. So is this for everybody? Absolutely not. It's something, if it's something you're interested in trying, maybe talk to your doctor about it first. But I did read that there are certain groups of people to maybe not do this. And one would be women that are trying to get pregnant or are pregnant or breastfeeding. They say that this, it could mess a little bit with your hormone levels, and we don't want that, especially in that category of people. Or if you have had a history of eating disorders or have had health issues in that department, then they recommend not trying this. But otherwise, they say that it could help boost your metabolism, and obviously we can do it gradually. So there are a couple of recommendations. Let's say you're not quite ready to do this intermittent fasting. one step toward just eating better, giving your body a break certain amounts of times is, first of all, avoid sugars and refined grains. Eat lots of, fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, things like that. That's just going to be better for your body. And then also to consider just smaller versions. So maybe like stop eating at 8 o'clock at night when normally you would stop eating at 9 o'clock, or stop eating at 8 and normally you would stop at 10, just things like that. And maybe try avoiding snacking, especially at nighttime, is the recommendation, just to give your body a break in between meals to digest, to do your cell repair, to just have a rest. So I'm not recommending doing the intermittent fasting. I'm mostly just here to talk about what it is and just give information. So if you're interested, you can always look it up. But those are kind of the basic components of the intermittent fasting. It's also called IF. Let's see, did I forget anything else? So basically what I was saying before about Buddhism is that they don't probably call it the intermittent fasting, but people that practice Buddhists, especially Buddhist monks, are basically doing intermittent fasting. So that's why I wanted to talk about it, because that's kind of a big buzzword lately. Okay, so vegetarian lifestyle. We've got these Bootables to make, so let's get fixing. Okay, fixing some food. Okay, so again, we've got the link down below. It's from Cooking Classy, and it's called Sweet Potato and Chickpea Bootables with Ginger Tahini Sauce. Okay, so first of all, I'm mostly making the recipe as it says, but you know how I like to change things up a little bit based on what we have on hand. Okay, so it talks about having some kale. And of course, if you've watched other episodes of mine, you know that we have lots of kale in our garden. So I've already taken some leaves, taken off the ribs. We've got kale here. And one thing, the recipe says to steam the kale, but I'm just going to do, the sweet potatoes I think are ready. Let me turn off the oven. All right. Got my oven mitts. My parents just visited. They gave me this mitts. I've been really enjoying them. Okay. Oh, yeah. These smell so good. Okay. You can see the steam coming off. Okay. Sweet potatoes, garbanzo beans, olive oil, salt, and seasonings. Okay. The seasonings, okay, I'm going to read the recipe for you. The seasonings are cumin, paprika, cinnamon, turmeric, salt. So the spice blend that I used is pretty much all of those things. Okay. I'm going to turn the oven off. All right. Back to kale. Okay, so this is what Raphael, my husband, and I, this is how we like to prepare our kale. So we put a little bit of olive oil on it. Maybe that was a little bit more than a little. And a little bit of salt. Okay, and then we massage the kale. And really what you're doing is just kind of rubbing the salt and the olive oil into the kale leaves. And this really tenderizes the kale. It's amazing. We had some friends over the other day, and they were like, "Did you cook this?" And we were like, "No, we just massaged it." So you just massage the kale, and the salt and the oil going into the leaf just like breaks it down a little bit, like it's been cooked, but it hasn't. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so I've massaged the kale. All right. So just to show you what it looks like, you can't, totally tell, but it kind of looks like it's been cooked already. Excuse me. I was out of the shot. Okay, there we go. Massaged kale. And then another ingredient is quinoa. So I've already cooked the quinoa because it just, takes a little while and I wanted to have it all ready. I buy the red quinoa. That seems to be the popular version in our household. So this is quinoa. So we're assembling our bowl, then we make the sauce. Okay. So you scoop the quinoa. I think the picture on the recipe, it's all layered on top, but I kind of like to do little sections. I think that's kind of fun. Okay. And then we're going to scoop some of the sweet potatoes into the other section. So we've got quinoa, we've got kale. Okay, now we're going to put sweet potatoes. Oh my goodness, this looks delicious. Oh my gosh, this is going to be dinner, this is going to be lunch, this is going to be lots of things. Okay, and then a fried egg on top. Okay, now we're going to make the sauce / dressing. I'm going to call it dressing, but the recipe calls it sauce. But it's both, a sauce dressing. Okay, and that is a ginger tahini, which I was excited because I already had all of those ingredients already. Okay, we're going to start with 1/3 of a cup of tahini. As you know, I shop at Trader Joe's. And this is their tahini is really good. Okay, so 1/3 of a cup. I'm just kind of winging it on the amount, but that looks like 1/3 of a cup. I tend to put a little bit more tahini than it usually calls for because I love tahini. And when I make hummus, I put a lot of tahini. So there we go. Tahini, 2.5 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Okay, we got our lemon squeezer, got our lemon half. Let's see how much that, I think we'll do both halves. 2.5 tablespoons. All right. 1 more lemon half. Yum. Okay. Oh, lemon juice just smells so good. Okay, I'm going to put this over here since we're done with it. Okay. We've got our tahini. We've got our lemon juice. The next is 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm going to put maple syrup. I always opt for maple syrup. I just prefer that flavor. But honey's totally fine. Agave nectar. You know, if you're strict vegan, you might not be using honey. So maple syrup or agave is totally fine. Okay. And 1 small clove of garlic. We're going to do a medium-sized clove of garlic because we like garlic in this house. So I'm just pressing the side of the knife into the garlic. We've got our garlic clove. I'm just going to peel it in half. Ooh, I see we have a question or a comment from Kelly. Tahini sauces are amazing. Great nutty flavor without the nut. Oh, that's right. Tahini is great for people with nut allergies. Absolutely. And it's so good. I'll have to share this with you. Okay. Garlic. Oh, yes. And 1-inch cube of fresh ginger. Fresh ginger. I'm writing a smoothie cookbook right now, or smoothie recipe book. I've decided to start calling it a recipe book because we're not cooking anything. And I kind of always have ginger on hand because of that. Put lots of ginger in my smoothies. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it kind of in big chunks. And you know, you can leave a little bit of the skin on there. I learned that. I used to assist cooking classes at a cooking school in Seattle. And I remember the teacher saying, you don't have to take all of the coating off of the ginger. That is kind of a lot of ginger. So I think I'll do this much. 4 big cubes. Okay. Let me make sure that, let's scroll down, make sure that I'm not missing anybody. Okay. All right. We've got our ginger. And 3 tablespoons of water. I pre-measured some water. Okay. Then we put our lid on. Oh, I see. It's probably not called a sauce then. Or it's probably called a sauce because we're not putting olive oil, so it's not a dressing. Okay. And got our trusty hand blender here, hand mixer. Okay. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be loud. Good. Oh yeah, that looks delicious. So then we spoon some of this sauce, tahini sauce, over the bowl. Yum. Okay, here we go. I've got to taste it. That is really good. Really, really, really good. Okay. So we're going to spoon this over our bowl. Yum. And then the recipe also calls for red onions. And I have some pickled red onions that are in the refrigerator right now. Forgot to pull them out, but that would be a really nice addition. And a fried egg. Yum. Sweet potato and garbanzo bean or chickpea Bootables with ginger tahini sauce from Cooking Classy. Yum. I will post pictures of this on my Instagram and Facebook. But if you follow me on Instagram, at Alli Shircliff, ALLISHIRCLIFF, I will be posting those this week. So there we have it. We have the Buddhist diet, basically vegetarian, all different levels of vegetarian. Some drink alcohol, some don't. Intermittent fasting basically is when you don't eat for about 16 hours a day is typically the way people do it. So let's say you stop eating at 9 p.m., then you wouldn't eat again until 1 p.m. the next day. Or some people fast for 24 hours once or twice a week. It kind of just depends on your preference, what you're interested in. That's about it. But yeah, there's lots of information out there. There's a book called The Obesity Code. If you want to know more about that, about intermittent fasting, that's kind of the start of all of the popularity of it all. And we've got a great recipe. So regardless of if you're doing the intermittent fasting or not, this is a really good recipe. I can't wait to try it. Thank you so much for joining today. Gosh, that time went so fast. I don't know if you noticed, we've got Buddha right here, just for inspiration, and flowers from my husband. We have these 2 dahlia bushes, and they just keep growing flowers. Or dahlia plants, I guess. They look like bushes because we have so many. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining. It's been great having you here. It's been great talking nutrition. I'll be back again next week. And have a great rest of your week. I'll talk to you all soon. All right. Have a good one.